Okay, hello. Welcome to CMIS 141 Introductory Programming here at the University of Maryland Global Campus. My name is Professor Lusby, and I am going to be your instructor for this course. I wanted to create a quick introduction video, kind of going over what's in this particular class and some of the resources real quick, just to get you acclimated during once week one begins. Okay, so the first thing is that once you access your class, this is kind of the main page, and there are a few important parts to the main page here on the classroom. Number one is this announcement section. For sure, I'm going to be posting announcements weekly, maybe even sometimes daily. Please make sure to look at those announcements. And I think maybe even you get an email once I post each of those announcements, but just in case you don't, make sure to double check this announcement section here. The other important part is right below there. You're going to see kind of your progress during the course, each one of the weeks. That may help you kind of get a high level view as far as where it is and what you still need to do. Okay, so that's towards the bottom under the announcements. And then on the right hand side, you should see a calendar here, and this will kind of let you know uh, what is coming up during each week. All right. So that's kind of the main page. The next thing I want to point out is the syllabus link here. Obviously, the syllabus is important. It kind of outlines everything that we are doing in this course. Here's my my email, right? If you have any questions, if you need anything at all, please make sure to email me directly. Here, there are a couple of other ways to contact me, but for sure this goes to my phone. For sure, I will respond within 24 hours of an email. So please use this as kind of your primary mode of communication with me. All right. And then down below, it outlines the particulars of the class. A lot of students ask about this. Well, how much is each assessment worth? That is here. And as far as the due dates are concerned, well, we talked about that. That's all here in the calendar. All right, so definitely take a look at the course syllabus. What else is important? Okay, content. This is where we drill down. Either you can click on these modules to get to the content, or you can come up here and click on this guy here, and this will show you a page that looks like this. And I think, well, let me just check that out real quick. Let's see here, week one. Yeah, it's the same page. All right, so click on content or click on any of those one of those modules, and you should see on the left-hand side all the different modules that the course contains. All right, so for week one, what we're interested in here is there's a bunch of good information at the top under the course overview. Please view that, right? We already talked about the syllabus. There is a student guide here with useful information, lots of good course resources. Tutoring services, for sure. I've had a lot of good feedback from students concerning this tutoring service. It is through, I believe, tutor.com. Yep. And this gives you information as far as how to set that up. Okay, so please don't be afraid to utilize the tutoring services listed here if you need it, or email me, right? That is definitely why I'm here. Also underneath course overview, we have an Ask the Professor discussion. Yeah, I guess if it's a general question that may apply to everyone in the class, go ahead and post it here. If you're kind of getting down into the weeds, or you want a timely response, please email me directly. That's the best way to clarify things. That's the best way to get a hold of me. For sure, I'm going to be checking this discussion board. So, like I said, if it's kind of a generalized question that applies to everybody, go ahead and post it here. If it's specific to you or you're asking for guidance on your assignment, I would rather you go ahead and email me directly, please. Okay, but for sure, don't be afraid to use this discussion board here. Also, there's an introduction section here, introduction discussion board. Please introduce yourself here. That's kind of how I get to know all of you, and it's how we can get to know each other. All right, so please do this as soon as possible. And of course, we have the student lounge where you can discuss things with your fellow peers in the course. The only thing I'll say here is that be very careful. I don't mind you having conversations. Just don't post solutions. At the end of the day, if you're having trouble with your assignment, email me with the specifics and I can help you. That's why I'm here. I need to know that everyone can come to a solution on their own. All right. So please don't post any code that is on the assessments. Maybe if you want to post third-party code outside of the assessments that are relevant but not directly related, for sure that's okay. But I don't want to see solutions being posted here in the student lounge. Okay, first time is a warning, next time is a 0 for sure. All right, so that is the student lounge. And then, well, for week one, I assume this is, we're in week one. And for week one, yeah, we're going to be talking about variables in output. Maybe we just go over each one of these weeks at a high level real quick before we and in fact, what I'm going to do is at some point I will publish some information concerning week one later. This is supposed to be an introduction video, so I don't want to get too far down into the weeds just yet. I want to give you a nice high level view of the course and what it contains. All right, so for week one, yeah, we're going to be talking about Java and how we declare variables in output. All right, that is definitely important in any programming language, but in particular, this is for Java. We're going to learn how to do that. It talks about Eclipse, and yes, that is definitely one IDE to use. All right, and it is the IDE or Integration Development Environment that they use in the videos. And even then, the latest version of Eclipse might look a little bit different than what's in the videos. But at the end of the day, 90% of the steps are basically the same. All right. So you're free to use Eclipse or whatever Java IDE that you are comfortable with. But at the end of the day, what I'm looking for is Java code that compiles and runs. Right. Doesn't matter what IDE you're using. If you have a proper IDE and you've set up Java properly, it's going to compile and run at the end of the day. All right. But here they are suggesting Eclipse because that is what is utilized in the videos. If you've never set up a Java IDE before and it's your first time, it can take some time. And it is different for every machine. So definitely make sure you do that as soon as possible. And just get a simple Hello World application to run, to where the application just prints Hello World to the screen. And that'll at least verify that you have a good Java IDE like Eclipse up and running and is able to compile and run code. All right. So definitely get that IDE set up, and then that's the most important thing at the beginning of this course. So week one is about variables and output and getting that IDE to work and compile and run code. Week two is about, well, input. So we can always hard code all of our data into our program, but that's not very user friendly, right? If we want to run the program and we want to enter in some other data values, well, we don't have to keep changing the program. We just want to ask the user, hey, what values do you want to use? And so week two is all about how we can do that using the different input commands as well as arithmetic, right? Typically the reason we create a program is so that the computer will help us do the math for us, right? We're kind of humans, we're kind of lazy, and if we can get a computer to do the math for us, well, now we can be really productive. So we'll learn about that in week two. And notice that every week basically has a discussion and an assignment. All right, a discussion assignment. The only caveat to that is week one is basically just a discussion. It does have this learning activity, but these are basically practice exercises that you should do on your own, right? Using Eclipse or whatever IDE that you choose. And it's just to kind of get your feet wet and comfortable with the Java IDE that you've chosen. Okay, so I don't believe these are graded. I don't believe this is part of your grade, but skipping it is not a good idea. Go ahead and make sure that you are able to do these practice exercises using whatever Java IDE you have installed. All right, so week 1 is practice exercise discussion, and then all the other weeks have a discussion and an assignment, as well as learning resources, right? Particular chapters in the book, as well as learning activities, which are more practice exercises, right? Week 3, yeah, Boolean states and conditional statements. Boolean basically means true, false, right? Computer is a binary machine. Everything is either true or false. There is no maybe. There is no wishy-washy. There is no gray. It's either true or false, and we can create what's called these conditional statements to check for those true, false conditions. And that's what we're going to learn about in week 3. So week 3 is about adding intelligence to our application. It's not just a direct flow that never changes. We'll be able to create these conditional statements such that it does this set of code if true, or do this set of code if it's false. All right, so very powerful concept, very important concept for all programming languages. So week 3, we start getting into the fun stuff like conditional statements. Same format, discussion, assignment, practice exercises, and of course, a particular chapter in the textbook. All right. Week 4 is about while loops. So a lot of times loops are very beneficial. They help us process a lot of data very efficiently. They help us create some algorithms that will basically continue to run until the user selects quit. Or in fact, there's some embedded applications out there that will just run forever, and that's their whole purpose is to process data just continuously all the time, and they never really end, and those are known as event-driven programs. Okay, but yeah, that's why we use loops. It helps us create some even more powerful algorithms that can either process a lot of data or do whatever we need continuously. All right. Week 5 is for loops. So yeah, there's 2 types of loops, right? There's while loops, which is in week 4, and there's for loops, which is in week 5. While loops is what's known as event-driven loops, meaning we have no idea how many times the program is going to need to loop. All right. For instance, we don't know when the user is going to type in the word quit, so that needs to be a while loop. For week 5, concerning for loops, that is what's called a counting loop. You know exactly the number of times that the loop needs to iterate, and is good for example, when you are analyzing a large data set and you know it has 1,000 items in it. Well, guess what? You can use a for loop that goes from 1 to 1,000 in order to look at each piece of data, because you know exactly how many times that we need to loop. All right, so week 5 is about counting or for loops. Week 6 is concerning methods, aka, well, methods are functions. Methods and functions can, at least in the beginning, can be used interchangeably. Technically, a function, it's a way that we can group together like code and give it a name that can be reused. All right, that is what a method or a function is. All right, very powerful construct. It enables us to create what's called dry programming principles. Do not repeat yourself. Anytime you find yourself copying and pasting code, that is a red flag. That is when you need to take that code and break it out into a unique method or function that can be recalled whenever you need to use it. All right. So for sure, methods and functions help us with dry principles and are very important in industry. That is what week 6 is about. Week 7 is about arrays. Yeah, we can always create unique variable names for every piece of data that the program needs, but at the end of the day, that's not very scalable. Meaning, instead of 10 pieces of data, let's say the program's supposed to read 1,000, well, we don't want to have to go in there and add 990 new variables in order to process 1,000. We want a more powerful data structure, in this case called an array, that is able to take each piece of data and put it into a variable that has the same name, but has what's called an index attached to it, so that we can increment a counter associated with that array and go through each piece of data inside of that array just using a counter. All right, that enables us to create scalable applications that can process data, right, anywhere from a small amount to a large amount, given your computer has enough memory, right? At some point, we just can't say we'll create a bazillion elements in this array because your computer doesn't have that much memory. So we still need to be careful. Even when we're using an array, there is a finite size that we can create that array, and it's based on how much memory your computer has. So array is super powerful, especially for processing data, lots of data, and we are going to learn about that in week 7. And then finally, week 8 is object-oriented programming. So the next layer, right, we talk about methods and functions here in week 6. Well, the next layer is, well, if we have a group of like functions or like methods, let's group them together and call it a class, right? And not only like methods or like functions, maybe there's like data that those functions use, okay? So anytime we have like data and like functions, all right, we can encapsulate them into a class, and that is what week 8 is about. And then finally, we do have the course evaluation at the end once the course is about 75% complete. All right, so I hope that this gives everyone an idea as to what this course is about and its layout. If you have any questions, please email me directly. It's listed here in the syllabus, and let me know how I can help, or I guess you could always post to this discussion board as well, and we can go from there. Okay, so have a great rest of your week, and let me know how I can help.